You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Welcome back to the Cabral Concept. Happy to have you with me here today and looking forward to getting into today's Training Thursday show. So today what we're going to do is actually forecast into the future for the next 12 months and a few things that I already see changing within our health and fitness industry, and more of what I expect you to hear in the media, at least I believe, from a lot of the top experts in the field. So one of the reasons why I'm doing the show here today is that this is a follow-up from episode 1091 of the Cabral Concept. That was called In the Know, the Top Fitness Trends for 2019. So every single year in January, what I do is I give you the top 10, at least, of the American College of Sports Medicine, what they've done in their research and the polling of tens of thousands of fitness professionals and gyms and health clubs, and what they are planning to offer to their clients and customers and members and all of that. So it's always a fun show for me to do. I've been looking at this now for 20 years since I've really, been in the industry, was in college, was training in college, was offering nutrition consultations in college, and always, just loved the field even back then. Truly had a passion for it and just loved it. It was my way out, essentially, of I've got this body that isn't quite working. I don't know how to fix it. Doctors don't know how to fix it. But if I go to the gym and I exercise and I try to eat well, I can at least change the outside. I couldn't really fix the inside. I didn't have the knowledge back then, but I fixed the outside of it, right? I was able to gain back a lot of the weight I had lost, a lot of the muscle I had lost. And I was able to, for the most part, reduce a lot of the inflammation in my body. Now, it didn't fix me completely, but I was able to reduce a lot through nutrition, and that's because I went to more of a cleaner, whole food-based diet rather than a lot of the processed foods I was eating growing up. So that was tremendously helpful. And what I like to do is obviously keep in touch with this fitness and health-based field. However, what I want to give you today, though, is more of what I see, because I do look at what's out there right now. I never let it sway me for what I know the truth, to be. And also, the thing is that I'm open. I'm always open to new ideas. I'm open to different forms of, well, not really different forms of medicine, but different delivery systems, different ways of going about that, because I know the medicine that we have now has been solidified for many thousands of years with all of the Eastern-based modalities. So we have Ayurvedic medicine, we have traditional Chinese medicine, or more of the more famous ones, but we also have amazing herbalism from Native American-based medicine, South American-based medicine, and I love that as well. I've even told you before that I've read books on Hawaiian-based medicine, and it's herbal for the most part, so love looking at all of that. But I don't discount all of the bioregulatory medicine, and when we use different modalities there, different testing methods, different terminologies, but for the most part, coming out with devices now that better measure the body. And then we have state-of-the-art medicine, which just means now. It just means what are we doing right now that is using advanced lab testing along with different types of extraction methods to be able to still use the herbs or vitamins in even a more successful way. So I like to use all forms of medicine. Anything that truly heals the body and rebalances the body, not just creates a temporary Band-Aid based approach. As I'm looking always through the research and I'm listening to people, I keep an open mind. I really do. I didn't used to have an open mind, but now I realize that there are multiple ways of going about things. Even though there's only one way to heal, and that's finding out what your toxicities are and removing those, and finding out what your deficiencies are and bringing those up, because you don't get to heal the body. Your body heals itself. So if you're working with a practitioner or a doctor and they let their ego get the better of them, they'll say, oh, look at all the people that I heal. Well, at some point, hopefully you've done enough work on yourself and you work on that ego and you work on what truly matters, which is the person sitting across from you, whether they're on Skype or whether they just purchase something online, whatever it might be. And what you're really doing is just saying, I know how to help the body heal itself. That's it. So yes, you might have the knowledge in order to help the person, whether they look at it through lab tests or even just symptomatology, but you're able to decipher what that person needs. But for example, let's just say that I found somebody with high levels of mercury and aluminum, as well as high levels of cadmium, and they have Hashimoto's. And I also find that they have higher levels of cortisol at night. And I find that they have some small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So they have some leaky gut and they have some bacterial overgrowth. So I found some toxicities. I found heavy metal toxicities, mercury, aluminum, and cadmium. And I also found the leaky gut intestinal permeability with the SIBO, the small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And then at the same time, I saw high levels of cortisol at night. We can consider those all toxicities essentially. But at the same time, there could be some deficiencies as to why they have high cortisol at night. Maybe they're lower at magnesium at night, or maybe there's lifestyle-based issues that really are zapping them a lot of their B vitamins and a lot of the zinc and a lot of things that can kind of calm and rebuild the body. And they could be lower on items such as iodine and selenium to help build back up that thyroid. So what I can do is I can put together a plan that are going to remove those toxicities, such as our candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol with the CBO finisher. And then I can also use one of our daily foundational protocols to build back up those stores. I could use some of the full spectrum magnesium at night. I could use adrenal soothe at night. If they had trouble sleeping, I could use the deep sleep protocol. So you can see, everything can work together. But and this person gets well and they're well within 12 to 16 weeks. Great, they feel great. So did I help that person heal? Well, I gave them the blueprint, but I didn't heal them. Their body healed themselves, right? Because the B vitamins or the adrenal soothe or the magnesium or the detox that we did in the beginning and then the CBO finisher, like those things gave the body what it needed in order to make its systems work better. So that's really what we're trying to do as practitioners. And today I just want to give you a little background for why I'm saying this, because today as I present you with these 7 truths that I see, they're all based on bringing the body back into balance. And that's how I want you to look at this. The body can live a very healthy, long life and have energy for as long as you need it, as long as you give it what it needs, not too much, not too little. That's the hard thing. We have such a hard time with that right now, mainly in the US. It's the whole world, but in the US especially, we have this fascination with if a little is good, then 10 tons is better. It's like we just go wild with it. So I want to give you an example. So the first one today, here is what it's rebalancing. So right now we have a huge push. We've had a huge push for a while, don't get me wrong, towards hardcore boot camps, towards high intensity interval training, HIIT style training, towards Tabatas are a little less exciting now, but towards go all out full speed circuits, just crush the body, right? And now we see a little bit of a swaying back. It's starting slowly. And by the way, what I want to say is the reverse of all these things is not a bad thing. Meaning like high intensity interval training, do it myself. Love it, think it's great. Do I do it 4 or 5 times a week? No. Do I do it for an hour? No. That's just not how it works. Will I do 5 to 10 intervals after a workout? Absolutely. Sure, like that's totally fine. Yeah, and great. Do I do kickboxing, boxing, things like that? Yes, and I love it. And I've been doing that for decades. I love it. But here's the thing. We sometimes get away from what we know to also be great. And I did this myself. For sure, I did this myself from like about 2000 to 2000 and let's say like 5 or 6. And that was getting away from aerobics completely. Not aerobics like dance aerobic classes and jazzercise. That's fun too. But from aerobic-based training. And that means literally going for a jog, going for a bike ride, anything that gets your heart rate up to about 60%, 70% of your max VO2. If you don't know what your max VO2 is or how to find your zone, you can simply take your age, which you will take 220 and then just subtract your age. And that's going to give you about 100% of your heart rate. Is it perfect? No. So there's so many people out there right now that are just such contrarians. Like they'll take anything anyone says And I don't mind, but they're hurting themselves and they're hurting other people. And they're just like, oh, well, that's not true because what if the person's an athlete? And they'll find every contraindication, like everything. And there's a guy out there right now, I don't name names, but he's a PhD and all he does is never with me, but he's done it with other people. And I'm like, what are you doing? And all he does is play devil's advocate for everything. And you're like, you're doing more harm than good. That's it. Because you can always find a way out of it. But here's the thing. If you are 50 years old and you subtract your age, 220 minus 50, you get 170, right? Again, math while I'm speaking is not a strong suit of mine. But let's say it's 170. So now if we wanted to get your heart rate at about 70%, 34, 44, 51, your heart rate would be about 120, right? So your heart rate would be about 120 at about 70%, I believe, of the max VO2. It just basically took every 10% of 170, which is your max, is 17. Multiply that by 3, and you're going to get 30%. Subtract that from your max, you're at 70%. Okay, it's only one way of doing it, but it's an easy way for me to do it right now in my head. And so it's not 120. So that's why math is not a strong suit on the podcast. It's going to be, actually, yes, it is, right about 120, 119. That will give you right around just a normal aerobic base zone. And you could bring it up a couple beats or down a couple beats. And again, it does matter your fitness level, etc. So here's the thing, though. Aerobics, and I did a podcast way back before. I'll see if I can find it by the end of the show. And it was why I believe aerobics is making a comeback. And I did this probably more than a year ago now. And the reason is that there's a lot of benefits to aerobics that I'm not going to go over today. I'm going to go over just one main point, and here's why. Aerobic-based exercise allows for oxygen flow. So keep in mind, when you do interval-based training, resistance training with weights, even body weight training, anything that you can't really do for more than, typically it's 90 seconds, but it could be all the way up to 3 minutes or so, that you're using predominantly an anaerobic-based system. So you're using a system that's working without oxygen or with a less proportion of oxygen to glucose or lactic acid or phosphate. And the reason you're doing that is because you're using more fast twitch muscle fibers, you're going all out, where aerobics, you can maintain that for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And again, I'm not recommending long distance cardio. I've never recommended that, ever. And the reason is because of repetitive motion damage, because of micro tears in the hearts. One of the reasons we've seen that with marathoners as well. So if you want to know more about aerobics and how it can help you recover between workouts, how it can help bring more oxygen to your tissues, and really improve overall energy, check it out at episode 741, all right? I'll try to link that up as well, but stephencabral.com/741, why aerobics is making a comeback. So it's worth checking out. I really believe that you should check out that show. And I believe that everyone should add in 1 or 2 days of aerobic-based training per week on top of their regular resistance training or interval-based training. After you get your body, and it works fantastic for weight loss as well. Not the only thing, I'm not saying that, but the reason why it also works fantastic is, believe it or not, through my studies, my research in clinic, and using glucometers, I've seen people lower their blood sugar much more effectively from aerobic-based exercise, meaning getting on a treadmill or upright bike. Upright bike is my favorite choice, and brings their blood sugar down much more effectively, whereas anaerobic training or high-intensity training can actually raise glucose even in a fasted state. I know a lot of people don't want to believe that, but remember, it is science, and you're able to test it yourself. So the first one is, I believe that you're going to see more aerobics being recommended. Why don't you see it more recommended now? Because one, you can just do it on your own. You don't need a training program. And the other, it's easy to do. The other, it's not the most exciting. So plug in, get your favorite podcast. That's what I do. Favorite podcast. I know this isn't like the best thing to do, but sometimes I'll do a phone call. Like I'll be on an upright bike and I'm just doing that and I'm getting in my cardio, and I don't do it forever either. One is I don't have forever, but I will do it for 20 to 30 minutes. And I will do that. If it's a cold day, like it is now in Boston, I might do it before my workout, but typically it's going to be after my workout. I save my strength, my energy, my glucose for my anaerobic-based training, and then I'll get on an upright bike and I'll just pedal away. I will, and just enjoy, like do something I enjoy. Typically it's listening to a podcast. So easy thing to do. You don't have to do it forever. It can even just be 10, 15 minutes and it will help you recover as well, especially after a workout. Okay, number 2 is this. I hope by now we realize that for 99.9% of the population, fasting is fantastic. And I've been recommending it now for, well, many, many years, maybe 8 years, maybe 9. Who knows? But it's been a long time, since somewhere around 2007, 2008, when I opened my first facility. And what I was recommending back then is still what I recommend today. However, I didn't have the knowledge in 2006, 2007, when I was opening that first place, as to why it worked. Because autophagy wasn't as well known. I was doing it for body transformation reasons and not as much for the health. Well, what we have, and again, I've done so many shows on fasting. I do hope that you check it out. I've done shows on why you shouldn't skip breakfast. I've done shows on how long your fast should be, all the different types of things on previous Cabral concepts. All Cabral concepts are available at stephencabral.com/podcasts. But again, 12 hours, amazing. Could it be 13 or 14? Absolutely, once you get your blood sugar under control. And if you don't start your morning stressed. So I typically stop eating around 6:30 at night, sometimes 6 o'clock at night, whenever we finish dinner. And I don't eat after that. I like eating after dinner. I enjoy snacking. If I sit on the couch at, let's say, 8 o'clock or so with my wife, we're just relaxing, we're either talking, we're reading, or we're watching TV, whatever it might be, it would be nice for me to be snacking. I like it. I'm not going to say that I don't. But I don't do it. And the reason that I don't do it is because for overall health and body transformation, it's number one things that you can do. Stop eating after dinner. Make your dinner earlier in the night, as 3 hours or so before bed. And if it's a little bit more, that's great too. And so what you're doing is you're allowing all that food to be digested. It's already moved out of your stomach and now it's in the intestines. You're going to get a better night's sleep. Again, there are a couple everything today you could come up with a different contraindication for or contradiction for. Okay, I'm not going to talk about those today. I've done those on previous podcasts. We're going to talk about why you're going to see the shift. So I go from, let's do easy math, 6 o'clock at night, and then I'm going to not eat again until about 7:30, 8 o'clock the next morning. And so that's about 13 and a half hours of fasting. And that's perfect for me because I start my day. I'm in the office typically around 7 o'clock or so, 7:15 in the morning, and then I prep for my day. I have my breakfast and super easy, and then I start my day, like my meetings, my consultations, my podcasting, whatever I'm doing right at 8 o'clock. So I ease into my day, and that's when I've already had then my food because I'm not going to have the opportunity to eat either until then around 12 o'clock. That's an easy way to do it, and you can fast for longer. However, we have so many people lowering their testosterone, so many people lowering their thyroid, so many people creating more stress hormone in their body by fasting until lunch. And that's because, not that it can't work for some people, because it can, but I've seen in my practice, especially with a lot of women, that those who fast for 16 hours, they're doing the 16-8 right now, oftentimes have a higher TSH, which is thyroid stimulating hormone, which means their body is not getting enough thyroid hormone that they need in order to keep their metabolism revved up. And it can be oftentimes because of stress. Listen, if you start your day stressed, getting ready for your meetings today at the work, your commute to work, you're running late, you're trying to get the kids ready, trying to get the kids dressed and out of the house, like all of these things can be chaotic. If you don't eat anything and you just drink coffee, well, oftentimes you can spike cortisol, which again, I did a show on one of the more popular shows I did, how raising cortisol alone can raise blood sugar. And the whole point of fasting is to keep your blood sugar lower, not to have anything there, and your body can work on something called autophagy. Well, what happens is that can backfire if you're stressed. So I believe we're going to see people do less of the 16-hour fast and more of what's been indicated for a while, which is the overnight fasting. Start to eat breakfast as you start to get your day going, and that will allow you to have the fuel that you need. Check out previous shows on this, since there's many details around fasting and how I also do 24-hour fasts, how we do almost 3-day fast every 12 weeks with the Dr. Cabral Detox. And so there's different types of fasting, but I'm talking about daily fasting, okay? Number 3 is this. I know I'm being a little long-winded, so I'm going to get back to keeping these at about 2 to 3 minutes each maximum. Number 3 is detoxing. So it's functional medicine detoxing. I did a show a while back called Beware of kind of pseudo detoxes or fake detoxes. I'll see if I can find that. Beware of these deceptive detox programs, episode 1068. Check out that show because on 1068, I specifically went through the science of detoxification so that it's not woo-woo, that there's real science behind this, and people are beginning to learn it and understand it, that we harbor inside of our bodies hundreds, if not thousands, of cancer-causing chemicals coming from the environment. And that's because there are over 77,000 known man-made chemicals that the World Health Organization has documented, and at least 50% of those, potentially way more, but it hasn't been documented yet, cause cancer. So the more people realize this, the more they'll understand that they need to do a functional medicine detox every season, even like they spoke about thousands of years ago. So important to look at because, in my opinion, we're not going to have any less toxins because corporations essentially own the government. There's not going to be a mandate to cut back on them. There is more in Europe. There's about 8,000 to 10,000 versus 77,000 like in the US, but more come out every year, and there's more loopholes. So my goal is to be realistic, live in the real world, but every 12 weeks, do that functional medicine detox. Ours is the Dr. Cabral detox, but you can choose whatever one works for you. It's just a functional medicine detox. All right. Number 4 is this. And it's been around for a while now, right? So we know that juicing can be amazing. It can be an easy way for us to get more nutrition into our body, okay? It is taking vegetables, squeezing the essence out of them, not eating the fiber, which causes other people who have candida overgrowth and SIBO a lot of bloating-based issues, but you still extract so much of the vitamins, the minerals, the enzymes if you drink it within 30 minutes or so, and nutrients, which are extremely powerful to revitalize the body. So you would never be able to eat 5 to 10 pounds of vegetables at a sitting, but you can juice those and you get rid of the pulp and you're able to then absorb and easily utilize all of those plant-based nutrients. Absolutely very, very powerful. But what we're getting away from in 2019, I believe, is a lot of the juices with fruit in them. Because what you want to do is eat your vegetables, or you can juice your vegetables, but eat your fruit. So fruit can be blended into a smoothie. That's okay, because it still contains the fiber, and it contains all of the fruit itself, which allows then to be more slowly absorbed. That's why you don't want to juice fruit, because if you juice it, you don't get any of the fiber, which helps to slow the digestion. And there's not as much fructose because you need to literally juice 5 or 6 oranges to get yourself a tall glass of orange juice. But you could never eat 5 or 6 oranges. So you would never get that much fructose or fruit-based sugar. Same with an apple. I eat now an apple every single day. But I can't eat 5 apples, nor would I want to. But I'd have to juice that many to get a glass of apple juice. So what you want to do, though, is juice those veggies if you choose to. You can eat them too. I eat them. But a glass of veggie juice is not going to have the sugar that the fruit juice would. So I think we're getting more towards the healthier juices, which use cucumber and celery and carrots as a base. And I know carrots have a little bit of sugar in them as well. But then you're moderating that with a little bit of ginger and lemon and beet as some flavor and sweetness, but you're not using too much. And that will give you the palatability. So these are all things that I see happening because I see people moving away and understanding that not all juice is created equal, especially a lot of these juices that have been heated and pasteurized and they're able to stay on a shelf now for 2 months. Well, that's not really a natural juice. There could be some benefit to them. However, the more natural juices are the ones that expire within 2 to 3 days maximum. And in an ideal world, you could juice it and drink it within 30 minutes. I know that's not available for everyone as an option. But again, stick with those veggie juices, not a V8, but stick with a real fresh pressed veggie juice if you're going to do it. All right. Number 5 is this. I see more people moving towards understanding that if they have a long-term health condition, that they are understanding and realizing that so much of it has to do with the gut. That means the digestive system. That they have some type of either candida overgrowth from antibiotic use, birth control, alcohol, NSAIDs, ibuprofen, tap water, etc. That's caused a gut imbalance. Now, yesterday I went in depth on this, and I invite you to check out that show. It was called 3 Ways Leaky Gut Leads to Fatigue. So check out that show. That was episode 1111. So StephenCabral.com, 1111. And that will give you all of the different ways that essentially you having digestive problems can actually lead to energy issues. Now, it doesn't seem like that makes sense, but I go through all of that in the show. And I believe people are becoming more educated. It's an amazing time to be alive. It's an amazing time to, even if you are someone that's dealing with weight issues, or you're dealing with health issues, or you're dealing with aging-based issues, the amount of knowledge we have right now has never been seen before, not at this rate. And in 10 years, it will be even more advanced, not because of what we can do. There's a couple things, and I'll be going over those in the future as well. But really, it's the testing methodologies. And those will continue to improve. And I tell you right now that I promise we'll be at the forefront of those testing methodologies. Anytime a new one comes out, I use it. Like, believe me, people are like, have you used this? Yes, I have. How come you don't promote it? Well, I don't believe it's where it needs to be yet. In 3 years, it might be. We saw that. There was a famous test, came out about 5 years ago or so, and a lot of doctors and practitioners started using it. And the company wanted me to use it. They wanted me to promote it in my practice. So I said, send me a sample. I'll be happy to test it out. I want to see how it goes. So they send it to me, and then I do it against one of my other labs, and I have a bunch of ones that I know work great. And it didn't get the results that I was looking for. It's not consistent, right? So I couldn't use it. Well, maybe they knew it, maybe they didn't. But here's the thing. There's a difference between being a lab, being someone that writes about research, and then there's someone who's a practitioner or clinician. You get to see things that work in the real world. I realized right away that this was not the best testing methodology, simply because I already know what works, because we've been doing it for decades. Not me personally, but these types of labs have been doing it for decades. Then I spend my money. I purchase these labs. I test them across others, and I also do the same lab twice the same day at the same time to see if it gets the same exact results. Well, this lab test, which will remain nameless because I do not degrade anyone who's trying to do good work, they later came out with a second version of this that then uses more saliva-based testing, and now it's obviously a much better lab. So that's why, I'm not going to go with the most popular thing. I'm going to go with the thing that works. Why? Because the only thing that matters to me is helping people get the results that they've never gotten before. That's what it's all about. Any labs that we promote are obviously ones that work fantastic. And all of those labs are available at equilibriumnutrition.com just for you to look at. And again, you can purchase them. Yes, you can run them at home. We'll give you a plan based on those. But you can also, if you have a doctor, a naturopathic doctor, or an integrative health practitioner in your local area, you could work with them if they run those labs and they know how to interpret them. And then great, you can do that as well. So our job is education-based. All right, number 6, we're moving on because I could talk about each one of these topics for at least a half hour minimum. Stress as the cause, the tipping point for dis-ease in the body. I work with a lot of people right now, and I talk about this in my book, The Rain Barrel Effect. I say that there are 3 triggers for disease, right? So there's genetics, but those genetics don't matter too much unless we have a deficiency toxicity, which lifestyle, environment, all of those things. Over time, they start to creep in there. And then we have a triggering event, which is usually a stressor in someone's life. It can be chronic stress, or it could be the death of a loved one, the loss of something that was very important to you, whether it be partner, whether it be relationship, whether it be career, it could be anything, right? But there's a major stressor. And that stressor further depletes our body, weakens our immune system, imbalances our body. And we're beginning to see that now. People say, well, it's, stress is implicated with this much percentage of the disease. Well, yes, gut issues are 90%, stress is 90%, inflammation is 90%. How can this all be? Well, they're all one and the same. I talked about that on yesterday's show. Stress weakens the gut. The gut causes more stress. The immune system, when fired up because of leaky gut and stress, causes more inflammation, right? So when we look at these things, they're all connected. All of those 3, the big 3, right? So here's the thing, though, when we look at it, we have to understand that, and I know that on the last one, when I said the gut is the epicenter of health, the throwback right now is people are just counting, they're just looking at macros, and they're just looking a lot of times at points for their diets. Well, it's not enough because those things can imbalance the gut. They can create bacterial overgrowth. We don't want that. In terms of stress, well, a lot of times right now we have this hustle-based mentality, and we're go, go, go. It's kind of like a badge of honor. I got up at 4 a.m. and I didn't go to bed until 11 or 12. And it's like, how little sleep can you survive on? Sure, you can do that, and you can do it easier in your 20s and early 30s. But after that, it becomes way more challenging, especially when you have family, you have career, you have work, you have kids to take care of, like all of those things. And that's why it's hard. And again, I was an 18-year-old giving health and fitness advice, but it's difficult. It's not that the person doesn't have the knowledge. They don't have the life experience. It's difficult to take advice from someone when they're 24 years old. And it's simply because their body is pretty superhuman at that point. Mine wasn't. Mine had broken down when I was 17. But most people, they can not eat all day if they want. They can not sleep for days in a row. But it just changes as you get older. Now, does it mean that you can't have the health and vitality and all the great that you want? Absolutely, you can. But you don't have the same buffering system that you once did. I believe, though, we're working on that right now. And I believe that will change. I see it already changing. There are things that I've done in my life where I can now go without sleep. Now, should I do that? No. So that's the thing. You don't want to do these things because you only have so much reserves, right? And you start to fill up that rain barrel with more stressors on your life. And so that's why we want to look at that. So I believe that we're going to look more into meditation, more so than before, but more realistic, more parasympathetic nervous system activities, more float tank, more sauna, more relaxation-based methodologies. Instead of hard massage, deep tissue, we're going to be doing more rejuvenating massage, more things such as energy-based medicine. So look for that for sure in the future. Number 7 is this. So we have a lot of biohacking right now. And don't get me wrong, like I am into biohacking, but I'm not into the name biohacking. I'm not into, a lot of people using all of these neurotransmitters and nootropics and all sorts of things and again, I believe in all of them. So like, that's the thing is like, yeah, of course I believe in L-tyrosine, which we use for people with low thyroid. And of course I believe in serotonin precursors. And of course I believe in all of those things. But a lot of times we're using them as basically pharmaceutical drugs. We're using them at high dosages and not as a systems-based medicine, but as a one-off. So again, I'm not against the power of niacin-based therapy for high dosages for lipid issues and depression. But do we want to do that forever as a drug? I would say no. I would absolutely say no. And I would say, what are the underlying root causes? So although I believe in all of it, what I'm really looking forward to, and I believe it's going to start to happen, if not this year, into next year, is using the mind, getting back to using the mind and calming-based therapies rather than trying to hack the body to make it do things without us actually gently easing into that process. So I believe we're going to get more into how can we focus on calming the sympathetic nervous system without overly stimulating it, and how do we bring the body back into balance naturally without having to do that with high-dose nutritional supplement therapy. Because I'm an advocate of nutritional supplements, but I'm not an advocate of long-term. It can be done in the short term, but I'm not an advocate of long-term high-dose nutritional supplements. I'm not an advocate, even back in the day when people are saying 12 grams of fish oil. No way. No chance. No chance. Or what about 10 grams of vitamin C a day? Nope, I don't believe in that either. Do I believe in vitamin C? Absolutely. Should you get it every day? Of course. But not 10 grams every day for long term. Now, let's say you were overcoming an illness or you were doing an antiviral protocol. Okay, I can get behind that. For sure, I can get behind it, but not long term. Not 2 years. I'm not talking about that at all, or the rest of your life. A lot of the items on this list just went to show you that when you take research, which is out there, and you try to extrapolate the data, but then you do it over a long term or at an even higher dosage, it does not make the data better. And what the data often excludes is the exact opposite, meaning that there's always a balance to everything in life. I love research. I do it daily. I read it daily, and I believe in it, but I take it with a grain of salt. I say, what was this study setting out to do? What were they actually looking for? Did they force the study to essentially be bent to their will, or were they open to whatever the data might show? And then I ask myself, is the data based on the 6-week study or the 6-month study? What would it look like if they had done it over 6 years? What would Ayurvedic medicine have said in this scenario? What about traditional Chinese medicine? What about bioregulatory medicine, traditional naturopathy, current day functional medicine, and naturopathic medicine? What would they say through that lens? And so when I look at it, I realize that truly life is not about moderation, but it's about balance. It's about creating homeostasis or equilibrium within the body so that the body has everything that it needs in order to heal itself. Hopefully today's podcast was helpful. If it was, as always, please do feel free to share it with anyone else you believe it could serve. Take care, everyone. And for all those show notes for today, head on over to stephencabral.com/1112. Are you ready to heal yourself and then go on to heal others? If so, the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute can help you discover proven functional medicine protocols that blend the best of 7 different healing disciplines from around the world. I personally share with you the exact handouts and protocols I use in my private practice that enable people to get well, lose the weight, and live longer, stronger. I want to pass this information on to the next generation of health coaches, and that is exactly why I created IHP. We are the future of the health coaching industry, and the skills and knowledge you will learn will make you an in-demand certified health coach anywhere in the world. Although we have many medical professionals taking the IHP certifications, no experience is necessary, and half our members have no previous health certifications. At the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, our motto is a health coach in every home. Our goal is that you take this knowledge and then share it with family, friends, loved ones, your community, or in a practice where you create a career you love and can be proud of. The global IHP community is filled with some of the most kind and caring people in the world, and we can't wait to welcome you into our world soon. For more information or to set up a discovery call with one of our IHP Health Coach graduates, simply head over to integrativehealthpractitioner.org.